the explosion and rescue efforts with our correspondent at Ibadan, Femi Amusa. But first, before we get to that, we would like to start with our discussion on the state of the nation with elder statesman Chief Dan Ulasi, who's already in the studio, but that will be right after this short break.
You're still watching Kakaki, the African Voice, this Thursday morning, and it's time for us to go into our very first conversation. Of course, Adora did tell you earlier that we will be looking at the explosion that took place in Ibadan 2 days ago. But before we talk to Femi Amusha, we have joining us here in the studio Chief Dan Ulasi, who is, of course, a politician, elder statesman, and is also a political analyst and, of course, analyst of sorts on all national issues. Thank you very much, Chief Ulasi, for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
It's good to see you.
All right, so let's first of all start with the state of insecurity. I mean, you listened to the newspaper review and some of our reviewers' sentiments on the issue of insecurity. So, I mean, Chooks did say that this is not something that is new. We've heard several exposés, we've heard several reports, and it seems as if, you know, we're still applying the same kind of method for different, you know, situations. But let's get your take. There is a general outcry that Nigeria right now is under siege. Do you agree with that?
Well, you know, about 4 years ago on this platform, I said Nigeria was gradually coming to the level of Afghanistan. Some friends attacked me when I left the studio, but those friends today, they're calling saying they're sorry. I said, be sorry for yourself. With due humility, I think a lot. I have vision for tomorrow. Some years back, I used to be very sad with those who ascribe to our country some level of malignant pessimism. If everything was dead, I say you must be crazy. But today I'm the one who is now apologizing to them because I don't know whether, as I speak, we have a country. For you to be able to make a change in any system you find yourself, you must have changed yourself. You must be a process of change yourself. And when you look at the antecedents of Tinubu and his family, apart from Clinton and his wife, no leader anywhere in the world, past or present, nears the credentials he came into office with. Former senator, former governor, and now president of Nigeria. His wife, a former senator, vice president, a former governor, a senator, chief of staff, speaker of the federal house. How can you beat that credential? How can you? Isn't that incredible? And we are here talking about security, that. I was watching him in Owerri. If I open up my phone, you know, it's a long time I shed tears last. When I look at children lying beside their dead mothers in Plateau. They didn't know their mothers have died. And they were still waiting for their mother to come up and maybe give them some milk to suck. And my president was in Owerri for inauguration of a governor. That is the priority of President Ahmed Tinubu, who struggled for democracy with MK Abiola in this country. He was in Owerri. People are being killed in southern Kaduna. They faced the explosion in Ibadan. There's crisis everywhere in this country. And there was a time I was here. I said I'm not a security expert, but it's simple common sense. There's one young man called Nnamdi Kanu. You can quantify him. You know where he is. You're keeping him. The bandits you cannot quantify. The Boko Haram, you don't quantify them. I don't know where they are. I don't know where they're coming from. But I believe most of them are Nigerians. Have we made any effort in terms of dialogue? If these people are Nigerians, what are our traditional rulers doing to relate to these people? What are their problems? Because you see that every conflict is about unresolved grievance. In all situations, there's something worrying somebody somewhere that he's protesting about. And in a country where more than 100 million people are now, they are so poor that the Senate president is doing a 61-year birthday, closes a stadium in Uyo, and you don't want young people to kidnap other people. I can't, it's a matter of contradiction. I don't know where we're coming from.
Well, Chief, let me ask you,
please,
something you said just now that caught my attention. Are you saying it's time to call a war council?
More than time to call a war council. And it is sad because I believe Tinubu is very competent with a lot of experience. that he needed no advice from anybody. But the problem that he cannot sit down one place to think anymore. He was in Owerri, and his wife was here addressing the kidnap of a man and his 6 daughters. I think 1 or 2 have been killed now. The wife, first lady, was addressing the country on behalf of her husband, who was in Owerri, having fun at inauguration of what? Inaugurating where you can't move between Owerri and Olu.
It wasn't there alone. There were several governors.
It's a no-go area. Many places in this country are no-go areas. I've been in this business, for a very long time since we started politics with Malam Aminu Kanu. We joined in myself. All of them are dead now. Chinua Achebe, people don't remember that Chinua Achebe was a member of People's Redemption Party. We looked at Aminu Kanu for love. He loved this country so much that a lot of us joined him to see whether we can recalibrate this country. But typical of what is usual, we lost out. We had 2 governments in Kanu and Kaduna. Balarabe later became reckless and they impeached him. So later we lost Kanu too. So what I'm saying is we have to have a system of, first to identify if we want to be a country. Because the system, we're now at a precipice. And it will be dangerous if this precipice becomes irreversible. It will be very dangerous. Because nobody wants to go on the highway anymore. There is time there was in this country. People travel only at night. Beautifully, can move from the east to the north at night.
All right, so let me come in here. I hear, the need to dialogue, and I hear you say there should be conversations, perhaps a war cancelled. But beyond that, there have also been accusations of complicity, enablers of this, funders and sponsors of terrorism. We are yet to see them named. We're yet to see them shamed. Beyond the conversation, do you not think that even the enablers, even some who have been accused to be within the coffers of government, should actually be brought to book?
I had advised some leaders, I had the privilege of getting close to them, that we need some form of strategic discipline, not self-indulgence. This is a crisis in the country today. People have a reflective instinct towards self-preservation. And I used to say that when you combine this political ignorance that you see all over the place, you think they are politicians, they're ignorant. When you combine it with unyielding arrogance, you have political blindness. That is what is happening all 36 states. Somebody is a governor sitting on a table looking at 3, 4, 5, 10 billion. That's what he's disbursing. He doesn't think about anything else. Can you imagine my sister and my brother, 774 local governments, not water is not running anywhere. Where do you begin to discuss this country? Water is not running, 774 local governments, water is not running anywhere. And they're not interested. They are not interested. And you don't want young men and women, not to enter the business of kidnapping, where they get easy money, bad as it is. But what do you want them to do? When you look at people carrying, jeeps, the governor is moving with 15, 20 jeeps.
Chief Ulasi, is that really an excuse for criminality?
No, excuse for killing. What is the excuse for having a bad day at 61 and closing a stadium? What is the excuse for that? In the country, you tell people to tighten their belts, and they have no belt anymore to tighten, no stomach to tighten with any belt, and they watch a stadium closed down for somebody to do a 61 bad day. For what achievement? For what contribution to the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Because his people are servants, cooking, they are servants all over the country. Is that his achievement of 61 years?
No,
Ridiculous things. Let me tell you something. Ridiculous things are happening in this country, and we don't want to address it. We must have to begin to address it, or else the system will collapse.
Well, Chief Ulasi, the people of Akwa Ibom State, I don't think referring to them as servants across the country is a very charitable one.
Behind me. When he became governor, he swore that his people would stop being cooks and stewards all over this country. And they make a lot of money from that. When he left, the number increased. The number increased. And those who do this, they don't go to school. They don't go to school. Every state has its own negative peculiarity. But for a president of Senate, under the situation Nigeria is passing, he's the greatest offender. to close down the stadium with the first lady of Nigeria sitting down there. Do you see the shame a few days ago? They were launching a book on Buhari, who put Nigeria 20, 30 years behind. Launching a book. Gowon was there. And the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was there praising him. I was just listening to the discussions people were having at the press review with Pantani and all those stuff. Tell me what has gotten better since APC took over. In the next couple of months, I'll be leaving partisan politics just to become an advisor for whomsoever wants to. Because what I see in the field, why would there be no complicity? Each time I travel, and I drive myself most of the time, I have a tendency of trying to give police people, army people on the road, especially in Anambra, that I'm in the southeast that is occupied. I give them money, and you see the relaxation, in their looks, how happy they get. And I ask them, why are you here? Why can't you people clear these bandits, whomsoever they are? He said, okay, in this convoy you are looking at, you will see about legislators, governors, people who have no business address, carrying not less than 7, 8, 10 mobile police. You see them so fat. Some of them are being paid, apart from the salary, 3,000, 4,000 naira every day. And so you want us to go and die? You want us to go and die for Nigeria? When something happens to us, in 24 hours they will remove our families from the various police barracks. These are people, God's supposed to be guarding you and I. And you see the grievance behind them. Is anybody thinking? When the new IG came, he said he would be lion in something. The same Nigerian police. So my worry, in summary, about Nigerian security, we have to recalibrate. The president has to tell himself the truth. I think people are now making money, both the military, everybody. It's now good business. Nigerian insecurity is now good business because a lot of unaccounted money is being budgeted and nobody
which accounts for complicity as well.
Nobody knows what is going on with the money. So for them, this insecurity should continue. Because none of them, I haven't heard of any big person in this country that has lost a son or a daughter. Once that starts happening, then you see a change.
All right, and then it's now here in the FCT.
Yes.
We saw the town hall in Buhari that was held with the minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, and he said that there will not be any hiding place for any bandit. But beyond that, there is still fear. I mean, a lot of people are really worried that now that it is in the seat of power, perhaps with people sitting up, Professor Joy Ezelu said, I'll quote her, she said, nowhere is safe in Nigeria. The widespread killings, kidnappings, abductions in peace times are condemnable and unacceptable. She says it directly abrogates citizens' right to life, bodily integrity, dignity, and the ability to earn a living. And so people are not even safe enough to go to work.
You know, the right of authority rests on regimented formality. That's what is authority. The authority to supervise me, to coerce me. It's regimented formality because things happen the same way. You come to work, you see policemen follow you. They are regimented to do it. You see army people follow you. There are processes in government that are regimented and they become formal. So also the security services should have formalities in the way they perform. But nobody. Just like Joy Ezelu said, you just read out. When we have lost values, what are our values anymore? We have no value for life. We'll betray a country that has no value for life. That is why people are being killed all over the place. Any day you don't have on your news how many people kidnapped, how many people killed, then it's an exception to the rule. That is now the rule, that people must be dying every day. Plateau, Southern Kaduna, here, in Olu, Ihala area. So,
okay,
Chief,
yes. Let me interrupt you because if we keep talking about what is wrong.
No, we're not talking about what is wrong, because what is wrong is also part of the solution. Because it is common sense.
Let's go to the solution now.
Yes. Because what I'm saying is that this president has an unprecedented record following him. And I've said, that was the first thing I said when I started talking. He was a legislator, He was a state governor. He's now president of Nigeria. So there's nothing about leadership that will be Greek to him. First lady, a senator, or was a senator. Vice president, 8 years governor, senator, chief of staff, speaker. Tell me who has a better credential that they cannot sit down and start applying some form of solution from the experiences they have gathered over the years. I should be able, if I'm sitting down with the service chiefs, if they tell any lie, I can see through it. I was a Biafran army officer. When you tell a lie, I can see through it, unless you are complicit. How do we start? About just before you came back on board, I have seen Nnamdi Kanu 2 times with the DSS. Currently one of the most brilliant, well-spoken young men this country has ever produced. One of the well-spoken, brilliant young men this country has ever produced. What's his problem? Talking about justice. And I asked President Tinubu, why don't you take one risk? Bring out Nnamdi Kanu. Look at the judgment of the Supreme Court on him. Almost 99%. The Supreme Court of Nigeria condemned the Federal Republic of Nigeria about all they did against Nnamdi Kanu. But said because the appeal court said the lower court had no jurisdiction, that they should go back for trial. They didn't condemn him for doing anything. His problem was justice for his people. And I asked the president, why don't you start somewhere? That's why I said Nnamdi Kanu is an identifiable quantity. Grant him, the appeal court had released him already. Grant him freedom, keep him in one place, and see whether 90% of the problem in the Southeast will not
But he
die
escaped.
down.
He escaped from.
Why did he escape?
Before.
The same Supreme Court said that his family compound was attacked and more than 27 people were killed, and he escaped. Supreme Court of Nigeria said it. Didn't you listen to the judgment? He was running for his life. They attacked his father's compound, and he escaped. That's why he left. So what I'm saying is that let us start somewhere with some experimentation. Now the government is holding him. Let's take a risk. I'm prepared to guarantee that risk the government will take, because I discussed with him and I float on the same level with him. You may not like his methodology, but he has a lot of common sense. Is Nnamdi Kanu responsible for what is happening in Plateau with the bandits, with Boko Haram? It's everywhere. Is he responsible for the explosion in Ibadan? Everywhere. So why can't we start? You know, Igbos have a saying, if you have a lot of enemies surrounding you, you buy drinks for some. So that they are drinking, you face some others. When you finish with them, you come back to those who are drinking. You cannot face all enemies at the same time. That is what this country is pretending to do. Because what started as protests in the Southeast, it's all over the country now. Because they will tell you we were on top of it. They called emergency meeting of all the security agents. We have been hearing this in Buhari. And what has changed? And we are still Nigerians, all Nigerians. I believe there must be something fundamental in the problems in this country that we can address. Dialogue. There will be no peace without dialogue. Give and take, no matter what it is. Somebody you're calling a bandit, is somebody's son, is somebody's daughter. We can approach if there is no complicity. If there's no complicity, at a very high level, it's not an impossible thing to sort out. But let us start somewhere. Let's use the Southeast as an example. Bring this young man out, keep him somewhere, and I'll tell you, you will not hear of kidnapping or anything. People are using his name to commit crimes in the Southeast because he's being held. And they can't understand why he's being held, because he's talking of justice for his people. I don't know why the bandits are fighting. I'm not from Northeast or Northwest. They must have a reason. Nobody puts his life on the line just for the sake of putting it on the line. Whether the reason is justifiable or not, it is a reason.
All right, so
the government has to look into and discuss.
Absolutely. Okay, so talking about life on the line, let's look at another angle of this conversation. I know that we were going to bring it up at some point, reconciliation in River State. I mean, one governor, former governor, who said he put his life on the line for the current one, and it seems as if all is not, happy in Wonderland, because we see the back and forth between the minister of the FCT and, of course, the governor of River State, Sim Fubara. So I know that you are a mediator, and conversations of this sort is something that you have also waded in the past. Do you think there is any end in sight to this?
Well, the unfortunate thing for me now is I have not spoken with, maybe I will see him today or tomorrow. I have not spoken with the FCT minister, but he knows I'm in town. But I'm likely seeing him. I've spoken with people on the side of the governor. Because just like Rotimi Amechi introduced Nwike to me, so also Nwike introduced Fubara to me in his office. The day the chairman of a board of trustees of PDP, led by Nwabara, came to Port Harcourt, elections had not happened that time, trying to see whether we can mend fences. I was in his office, watching them where they were having their meeting. He would stay with them a little, and he'll come back, and we'll be joking, saying one thing or the other. He's a very disciplined person. That was the day he introduced me to Fubara, and said a lot of very good things about him. I don't know what has happened. I don't like making public comments if I don't have the facts with me, especially when I'm in a position to have facts. But the only thing I will warn both Nwike and Fubara is not to put the name of Peter Odili to any form of shame, because he's the architect of the good governance, and indeed there has been good governance in Rivers State from his time up to Nwike. If every state has applied their resources for development as much as Rivers had done, I think.
But we saw a peace pact that happened between the governor, his godfather, some members of the executive, the president as well, and we also understand that Dr. Peter Odili also was part of that conversation. Yes. But beyond that, there seems to have stretched the rancor a little further, even with name callings, at gatherings, referring to the governor as a small rat, and certain ideologies that one would not naturally, akin to somebody of that status, and coming from somebody who also knows that such things are also, bad for political demeanor.
Well, you just said what what I was alluding to. If you listen to what happened in Amok and a couple of other places and the rhetorics of people, you know that there was no peace agreement. That's the summary. All that happened at the presidential villa, there was some paper was written and somebody was told to sign. And he signed for the sake of peace that he hoped would happen. But it hasn't happened. Because if there was intention for peace, all the rhetorics in the past 1 week in Rivers State would not have been happening. So it shows you that things have collapsed. But I think the governor is doing, at least, he's represented the names of commissioners who resigned to the House of Assembly. So he's done an essential aspect of his own part. But this public rhetoric, I don't understand. And I said I will not comment on it until I see Nwike. Because he's a young man who has respect for me. He listens to me. I want to know really where he's coming. Because I don't know where he's coming from anymore. When we fought in the past, I supported him for presidency because the Southern governors of all parties said if Southerners should become presidential candidate in all the major parties. So we supported him. But when he lost, I had to support the candidate who won in my party. So since then, we've not really sat down to talk. But I'm making efforts to see whether we can talk. And I want to know where he's coming from.
Okay, let's move on to something else. Yes. The 2023 elections ended. Of course, as usual, plenty of cases went to court. And only about a week ago now, just Friday last week, the Supreme Court ruled on a number of governorship election cases that had come before it. And I think one of the most interesting, or two of the most interesting, I should say, Kanu and Plateau. What are your thoughts on these cases, and what are your expectations concerning the other ones that are coming up, Nasarawa and, of course, Rivers?
At least for once, the Supreme Court realized that they have to follow public opinion. What is public opinion? Public opinion does not mean changing the law, does not mean telling them what to write. Public opinion means that people voted for Kunle, and somebody went to court to challenge Kunle. And you had passed through one stage and they said Kunle did not win. You go to stage 2, they said Kunle did not win, when the people knew they voted for you. The Supreme Court only recognized that if they did not do what they did in Kanu, only God knows what will be happening in this country. Only God in heaven knows. Kanu is a very volatile place. Only God knows. Not to talk of Plateau. This thing happening in Plateau has been going on from Buhari's time. Herdsmen. And government, I don't think they have declared them terrorists yet. So it is a welcome development that they appreciated the voice of the people, the franchise people showed on the election day, that we voted for Mr. A, and finally, Mr. A was recognized. But to that extent, how about those senators and members of the federal houses and the state houses of assembly? They're the same tribunals, the same election. They threw them away, especially in Plateau. Gave virtually all the seats there to APC on the same, reasoning. Because I was looking at somebody people had here on Monday, a senior advocate. He was having contradictions in what he was saying. How can a high court judge or an appeal court judge go contrary to a Supreme Court decision that is supposed to be a reference point? You do not discuss pre-election matters at the tribunal. But that was what happened in Jos. And people lost their seats. I haven't heard that NJC is questioning anybody, has set up a committee to do anything. I haven't heard of it. So in as much as we celebrate the judgment they gave for about 5 or 6 days, I don't know what is going to happen about Rivers and which other state?
Nasarawa.
Rivers and Nasarawa.
And Nasarawa state. Because the whole Nasarawa is so evident. Even lawyers explain what happened in 2 local governments.
I think what Aliu Lemo was saying, the senior advocate was saying on Monday, was that even if the ruling is wrong, it's a ruling of the court, and you have to abide by it.
We appreciate that. That was what I called judicial rascality, which he was quarreling with. And I said it after the judgment that kept Nnamdi Kanu still in prison, that it was judicial rascality. How can you, out of 10 items, you say somebody was right in 9? Because something happened.
All right, Chief.
If Supreme Court had already given a decision, sorry.
We really have to cut into your thoughts now, because I'm sure Rene will be eager to take off on Kakaki Socials, but we must thank you first. Chief Dan Ulasi has been talking about the state of the nation and also looking at how perhaps he can also wade into the issues of reconciliation efforts in Rivers State.